Hi, my name is Tammy. I'm the Education Manager at SANCCOB. I'm calling you from Cape Town, South Africa. Today I am joined by the grade 6 students from Our Lady of Mount Carmel Elementary School in Niagara Falls. We're joined by Mrs. Huddy's grade 2s from Calgary, Alberta, as well as Doreen Public School, where we have the grades 5, 6, 7, and 8 students. And of course today we have Princess. Hey! So Princess, some of you would have seen before. You'll know that she's an endangered African penguin if you've met her before. And Princess is actually today on behalf of Norbert. I was going to bring Norbert up here, but he's actually like a bit of a moody, teenager-y penguin at the moment, so he wasn't quite in the mood to come up to my office to do this. He was feeling, I don't know, moody today, so I decided to come with Princess instead. And she likes being up here anyway, because she gets to relax and play with things. Right, so we are here today to learn about the penguin eye. For the classes that are joining in live, really exciting to have you here. And we're focusing on why Norbert lives at the hospital. So Princess lives with us. She came in as an oil penguin, and we found that she came in very tame. Normally, if animals like penguins come into centers like this very tame, it's because people have been feeding them in the wild and approaching them and feeding them. And we know that that's actually not very helpful, because there's nothing really wrong with Princess, and she should be in the wild contributing to the population. But instead, she needs to stay here with us because she's become too reliant on people for food. But Norbert has a different story for why he lives here, and hopefully you guys can take a little something away from this, and you can learn a little bit about why it is that Norbert is at the hospital. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I'm going to present to everyone. Right, so you guys should all be able to see my screen. And starting right at the beginning, we're here to meet Norbert and learn about the penguin eye. So, hi, I'm Norbert, and I am an endangered African penguin. Now, the African penguin is endangered, and this word means that there aren't a lot of this type of animal in the wild. So Norbert doesn't have a lot of African penguins to chat to in the wild, but he doesn't live there. He actually lives at SANCCOB in Cape Town, South Africa. SANCCOB is the name of the animal hospital where I work. It stands for the Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds. We're an oil spill specialist. We're one of the top 10 oil spill responders in the world, and we also conducted the largest animal rescue mission in history. This was in the year 2000, where we washed, rehabilitated, and released 19,000 birds in a single oil spill. And lastly, Norbert wants to tell you I am a blue. Now, African penguins have different names based on how old they are. First off, they start as chicks, very fluffy, very, very cute. Then they wind up losing this fluff at about 3 months old. We call them blues because their feathers have this beautiful bluey shine to them. Then when they're a year old, their feathers go brown, and we call them juveniles. And when they're 2 years old, they're black and white, and we call them adults. So Norbert is a blue, but Princess at the moment is an adult. So when we wind up going back to me, take a closer look at Princess, and you'll see that she's got this pink around her eye and a little black and white tuxedo. Now, Norbert lives at SANCCOB because of an eye injury. During his stay at the nursery, he was pecked by another chick, and this has significantly impaired his eyesight. Norbert is actually completely blind in his one eye, and we're here today to learn why would that be such a big deal. Because people can wind up becoming blind or losing sight in one of their eyes or having partial sight, but that doesn't mean they have to live in one room for the rest of their lives. So why would it be such a big impact on Norbert? Why would he need to stay at the hospital because of this? And what is it that makes the penguin eye so special? So I've decided just to split this up into some facts for you. The first being that the penguin eyelid is mobile. The lower, more so than the upper. Now, what I mean by this is when we blink, so can everyone please blink at me? Blink, blink, blink. I want to see you all blinking. There we go. I can see all my classes blinking. Wonderful. So when we blink and when we go to sleep, those top eyelids of yours are making that happen. Your bottom eyelids are really ungrateful. They are lazy. They just sit there and do absolutely nothing. To show you how little they move, I want you to hold your top eyelids for me. Don't hold your eyebrows. I want you to hold your eyelids. Yes. Very good. Thank you. Now, I want you to try and blink, but only moving your bottom eyelids. See if you can do it. Yeah. I probably look very silly. I'm sure I do. So, can any of you guys do it? No, probably not. And if someone in the class is like, yes, I did it, no, you didn't. You're lying. Your bottom eyelids don't work that way. Your bottom eyelids are moving. It's probably because your facial muscles are moving them around, like when we smile, when we cry, or things like that. But they don't just move on their own like our top eyelids do. Now, penguins are really cool because the next time, not just a penguin, but the next time you're near a bird, you should take a close look at their eyes, and you'll see that they blink opposite to us. So their bottom eyelids are mobile and move very, very well. So it's kind of like they're blinking upside down, which is quite fun to look at. So that was our first fact. Our second one, let me get back to this. Yeah, is that penguins can produce tears, but they don't cry. This is because they have a lacrimal gland. You also have a lacrimal gland. It's a special type of gland that produces tears, but penguins don't cry in the same way people do. They don't have these strong emotional reactions and cry as people do. They would produce tears if they had gunk in their eye or if they had an eye infection. Penguins also have a nictitating membrane or a third eyelid. This moves from the inside and then outwards and protects their eyes from dust and salty, dirty water. So to put it into perspective, if this is Norbert's other eye, and this is Norbert's beak, his third eyelid is going to go from the inside across the eye. So he has one eyelid at the top, one eyelid at the bottom, and one eyelid that goes straight across the eye. So hands up, who in our classes have tried to open their eyes underwater before? Oh, great, it seems like quite a few of you. Now, when we open our eyes underwater, it's a little bit sore. It's not painful, you know, it's just our eyes are a bit sensitive and they're not really made to be open for long periods of time underwater. Now, if we wanted to, we could go and buy goggles, and then we could keep our eyes open for quite a while. Now, I don't know about you, but I've definitely never seen a penguin wearing goggles before, but they need to be able to keep their eyes open underwater in the ocean, which is very, very salty. So they have their own built-in goggles, their third eyelid. Penguins' eyes are on the side of their head, and this helps them have a very broad field of vision. However, when you stand directly in front of a penguin, they can't see you very well, which is why they would turn their head to get a better look at you. So imagine if your eyes were on the side of your head just above your ears. You could see very well left and right, but you'd really struggle to see what was straight in front of you. Penguins see in a similar way to this, but it's not as intense because their heads aren't as big as ours. During an oil spill, a penguin's eye will sting when it comes into contact with oil. When we have oil penguins at SANCCOB, we use eye ointment to soothe the pain. So I mentioned at the start of our lesson that SANCCOB is an oil spill specialist. And I'd like to show you a video of us helping some oil penguins that came into SANCCOB last year. But remember, we're learning about the penguin eye, so I want you to notice how they're turning their head to get a better look at you, how we're putting medicine around their eye so the oil doesn't sting, how they're blinking with their bottom eyelids, and how they have a third eyelid that goes across the eye. Great. Well, hopefully you got to see what I was talking about there. If the quality wasn't very good, this is available on YouTube, so you can watch it as a class there and then discuss it. Now, the pink around the eye of an African penguin is an orbital gland, and this can become a darker, more intense pink color when the penguin is stressed. So it's kind of similar to when your face goes red when you blush. Blood starts to rush to that part of your body, which is why this gland here would become more pink if the penguin was stressed. Penguins also have really good eyesight, and this helps them see and catch fish in the ocean. This is the main reason why Norbert would need to stay at SANCCOB, because catching fish would be extremely difficult for him. Something else that helps penguins in the wild is that they can see in color. Now, not all animals and not all people can see in color. When this happens, we say that they are color blind. Although African penguins have brown eyes, other penguins actually have red, black, or yellow eyes. This is quite different to our blue, green, and brown eyes. And you can also see that we've got eyelashes, while penguins don't. And that's everything there is to see about the penguin eye. So hopefully you enjoyed learning a little bit more about penguin eyes in general. I'm just going to take one question from each of our classes and then cut the broadcast off there. Classes, I will answer more questions after that, but it's just because we start a little late, so I don't want the video to run on long. So can we please have a class from the grade 6 students from Our Lady of Mount Carmel Elementary School in Niagara Falls?
Okay. Good morning. All right.
How many penguins have you rescued?
So we see about 1,500 penguins here at the hospital every year. But we've worked with, I'd say, between 40 to 50,000 penguins since we opened 48 years ago. And we've worked with about 90,000 seabirds since we opened. So we're quite busy. It's a lovely question. Thank you. Can we have one question from Mrs. Huddy's grade 2s from Calgary, Alberta, please?
Hey, Logan. How many penguins have you seen that went through oil spills?
Yo, that's a tricky one. Because I can't off the top of my head tell you like all the different oil spills. But the ones that I know of just off the top of my head already get us to about 27,000. Just the ones from my head. I'm sure I'm missing like a whole bunch. But we've worked with quite a few. And like I said at the start of the lesson, we had that one really big oil spill where we worked with 19,000 birds just in one oil spill. So we've seen quite a few oiled penguins. But you'll find that there are fewer and fewer oiled birds coming into the center now, and that more of our penguins that are coming in are actually coming in with problems relating to plastic pollution, overfishing, and climate change. So it seems like oil spills aren't as much of a problem for penguins as they used to be, maybe because the regulations have become a lot more strict, or you know, the way that oil is being pumped has changed a bit over the last few years. That's a very good question. Thank you. And then let's take our last question from Dorian Public School, and then I'll cut the broadcast there.
What species of penguins live in Africa?
Sorry, can you speak up a little bit? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, live in Africa.
I just heard in Africa, so I'm not sure.
So what species of penguins live in Africa?
Thank you, sir. So the only penguin that lives in Africa is the African penguin. That's why it's called the African penguin, because, you know, we've got no one else to confuse it with. But it's actually important to note that most penguins actually don't live in the snow. I think we're very much given this idea that the bulk of penguins live in these really, really cold conditions, but they live in countries like Australia, New Zealand, South America, places like Brazil, or even in the Galapagos Islands. So they live in quite warm places, not just in the cold. Thank you so much. So guys, I'm going to cut the broadcast out there. Thank you so much for those wonderful questions, and thank you for joining me and Princess for this session of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Bye.
Thank you.